And we are live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? It's your man, Jay Kev, Blake Taylor here, just having an open and honest, transparent conversation today, as we normally do. Just having some thoughts, getting them out there in the open, and hopefully adding value. And as we talk, and hopefully your investment is worthwhile. What's up, Leif? How you doing?
What's up, bro? Doing well, man.
Just chilling. Today, man, I was just thinking about the pandemic and some of the things that's happening as far as in the economy and some things and what people are experiencing. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and during the course of the conversation, the topic or the subject around what you would do differently after this is over, starting now,
Okay.
that you weren't doing before the pandemic, or that you weren't really holding to a high priority before the pandemic. And one of the things that came up was finances and being a saver and an investor, uh, being better around those areas with respect to wealth versus just kind of living paycheck to paycheck, or just getting by, or not really being mindful of budget. So today's topic, man, we're just going to talk about, what's one thing that you would do differently today, starting today, tomorrow, with respect to, as a consequence of where you may find yourself today with respect to the pandemic. And that's just one area, just thinking about wealth and personal finances. But, I started thinking about some other areas too, like what would I do differently with respect to my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey? And I decided to be more adamant and more mindful about meditation and prayer. I mean, like, just trying to get that to the next level and being holding that to a higher degree or higher priority versus getting lax. And then
Yep.
I was thinking about, my physical life, my body, and what would I do differently? Well, one of the things I started doing now that I'm looking to continue going forward is being more adamant about my cardio and jogging, but also just getting out in nature and spending more time out in nature, period, and just walking and just uh, grounding myself and getting more well acquainted with nature. And then I was just thinking about, like, mentally, my mental life, what would I do? And starting now. And I was just thinking about how, I'm pretty mindful about the things that I consume, but I find myself even having to ratchet that up, given that there's not a lot of distractions like sports, or it seems like Hollywood's kind of shut down a little right during this moment. So I have to be even more mindful about the content that I consume and about some of the messages that I allow to seep into my life. So just being more mindful about that. And then I was thinking about my emotional life. Um, it seems like, I don't know if you can tell, if you can feel it, but sometimes now when I'm in public, I can kind of feel a feeling of like faint anxiety, or uh, a feeling of unease sometimes when I go into some places. And it's making me realize the importance of making sure that I take more control, or mitigate a lot of things that's within my personal environment that I have control over. For example, you know, um, I try to make sure that my household is kind of in a peaceful, quiet state. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
that when you walk in, it feels like a place of rest. It feels like a Garden of Eden, I guess you could say, for lack of a better analogy. So I try to really, I hold that picture in my mind's eye, and then I try to cultivate, my life around that. So just thinking about, so that helps me keep a heart of peace, calm, tranquility, and serenity. I know, in positivity, I know you can't hold that always, because life is going to throw you some punches, some blows, going to catch you off guard. But the goal is to um, resonate right back to that as fast as possible. So just thinking about that. That's relationships. Being more mindful about my relationships, in the future, and about who I allow in my immediate circle, and who I give weight to as far as having a voice in my life. Some people get more weight than others, but just being more mindful of that as far as relationships and doing the things necessary to make sure that I cultivate and I maintain and keep the relationships that I want to keep healthy and strong.
Okay. So this is what you're planning on doing going forward,
Yeah,
and okay, as opposed to what you wish you would have done, right?
right. Well, yeah, exactly. And it's one thing about pandemics or even any time of trouble that exposes uh, the good things about what you're doing and where you're at. It also exposes, the bad things about where you're at and what you're doing.
Okay. So what's funny is I had the same conversation with my wife. Was it yesterday? Yeah,
Hmm.
yesterday, and we were talking about some similar things. You know, just looking back on opportunities that that we may or
Man,
may not have missed,
yes.
and even just thinking about other people, right? Because I was telling her, thank God for our situation in that everything was already lined out to be this way before this happened. And in terms of the timing of the work I was doing, in terms of me receiving the money I was supposed to receive, and all of this kind of stuff before this actually happened. Had this happened 2 months prior, then it would have been a totally different situation for us. So I was just thinking about just that, and and those families that didn't have the same opportunities, or just the planning ahead of for times such as these, because like the kind of work that I do, we get paid probably 2 months after the work is done. And
Wow.
so and so anyway, was just thinking about all of that, and it's just like, man, everything in my plans worked out as they were supposed to. But I know, like I said, it's not the same for everybody else, especially when you get paid weekly, and not everybody has the luxury of not having to pay bills in certain aspects, and so any income change is volatile. And so for me, it was one of thankfulness, just reflecting and being thankful of it just worked out, and it could have been the opposite. And so, so you never get too high minded, when you're in a place of privilege, to think that, oh, it's just other people, and that it couldn't have been you, because timing is everything, especially in today's economy. Cash flow is everything. And if you don't have the cash flow hit at the right time, then it could be disastrous for a whole lot of uh, economies. And I'm talking about it from a home level. So that's one thing. Another thing that I thought about that I wish I had been more prepared for, or that I won't allow to happen again, is just fitness. We talk about maintaining fitness and those things. I don't feel as I should be as fit as I need to be. And what I mean by that, I'm always thinking about, okay, supplies run out, gas shortages run out. Am I fit to walk or run several miles at any given point in time? I know when I was in my former life, I always say that when I was in
Hmm.
school, exercise science and kinesiology was like my major in athletic training. And one of the things that one of my fitness coaches always told us is that you should always be prepared to walk or run 4 or 5 miles at any given time in your life. And
That's,
so, yeah, and I was there then. I was in
yeah.
shape enough to do that then, because for a quick example, one of our assignments, like our final, was to run 40 minutes nonstop. And so that was just the kind of stuff that we would do in that class. He was an old Marine guy, and
Oh,
so
okay.
everything was evolved around fitness and being at the tip top condition that you can be. And that's one thing that I thought about in terms of just from a safety standpoint. Not only that, but just from an accidental standpoint, right? Being fit can eliminate a lot of injuries that you may otherwise sustain. We talk about the load on the health system and those kinds of things. Being in a compromised position in terms of, everybody's talking about immunity, but just in general health, being in a compromised position can be almost deadly sometimes in times like these where you don't get the medical attention you need. And it's already bad enough being a Black person in America and trying to get good quality medical attention, let alone coupled with the pandemic. So that's one thing that we talked about that we would definitely do better going forward. In terms of lifestyle adjustments, there's not really many that I would make. Uh, I would just do it more efficiently, if that makes any sense. I would just be more efficient in the plans that I have, and not taking time for granted, not taking opportunities for granted.
Yeah. So seeing where the some of the kinks are, and I guess like you said, tightening down the hatches and um, being more efficient in what you're already doing.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's something that pretty much that I've been thinking about too, as far as like looking at the processes that I have in my life and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and what needs to be adjusted and changed. Um, yeah, what another thing that's kind of got me on this direction is just thinking about there's been a lot of comparisons to where the economy is headed with respect to the depression in the 1930s, and I can kind of see some of the points that have been made about that. And so that's one of the things that's gotten me thinking about this and why I'm even going in this direction.
Okay. In what respect?
Uh, just the economy and how it's affecting people and it's affecting income. And when you affect income, you're affecting people's, just about every area of somebody's life. Whether when you affect somebody's income, you're affecting how they think, whether they're in an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset. You're affecting how somebody feels, whether they're anxious or worried all the time, about their situation. You're affecting livelihoods, and you're affecting people, whether they can get nutrition, whether they can get proper food and stuff like that. So just thinking about that, it's really opened my eyes as to making sure that I'm more familiar with all the avenues or opportunities for assistance or help, or if a time of need ever comes up, that I'm aware of it and knowledgeable about it.
Yeah, that's one thing that we talked about as well, is gardening, being self-sufficient in terms of gardening,
Man, yes.
and making sure that going forward we put in the effort. We've already started some of the process in terms of getting supplies and things that we need to start gardening. And
Are you
it's
serious?
huh?
So are you serious? I was going to ask you about that the other day, but I just decided not to.
Yeah, no, like because I've been with the irony of it all is I've been talking about this for the past year. I know some people that already garden, and I was like, okay, coming up was my game plan. Like now, spring is just now hitting, so to speak. I don't know if it's officially spring or not, but
Yeah.
uh, our game plan was to start the process this year during this time. And so, because last year I talked to a lot of different people about, okay, when the weather gets good starting next year, I want to hit you up. I want to get some insight. I want to get some pointers and tips and all of that. And like this year, I was like, man, I wish I started it then. But my game plan was to start this year. Of course, I didn't know anything about COVID during the spring of last year or the summer of last year, or I don't even think it was a thing. But going forward, I want to make sure that I follow through on that game plan in terms of making sure that we implement it and have it in the process. And I wanted to do this in general, not only because of being self-sufficient, but in terms of saving money. Growing your own food saves you a lot of money. It can actually create money as well. It can create wealth. But me, I'm always trying to just lower how much I pay out on anything anyway. And so my thinking of it is, we already eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and those kinds of things in our household. What can we grow that we eat a lot of that we can eliminate that bill altogether. And not only that, we can have a surplus as opposed to, just enough kind of thing. So that's another thing that we've thought about. We already have seeds, we've gotten seeds, and we'll probably get some more. But that's one of the things that will be done differently after all of this is, or probably while this is going on. To be honest, I don't know how soon this this will last. I don't think it'll be shorter than what they're predicting. I think it'll probably be longer in a variety of ways. And one thing that I am thankful for is the fact that in terms of, actually, I just thought about it, in terms of the things that we've talked about prior to this, the Davos and the gig economy and all of that kind of stuff, this is definitely giving it a bolt or a jump start, so to speak.
If it wasn't planned, it's perfect synchronicity at work.
I know.
So I mean, I'll just say it that way because I don't want to get the conspiracy train going. But however we got here, we're here.
Yep.
And talking about the fourth industrial revolution, which is a term that I think was coined by Klaus Schwab, I think is his name, Schwab, who started the World Economic Forum. And that was one of the big things that, that they were pushing there. Not only there, but just other places too. When you listen to all of them, all the non-governmental organizations and stuff out there, if you start looking at them, they all seem to be pointing in the same direction as far as movement of world events, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we're in a transition point where we are being pushed, or we're being transitioned into this new digital way of living, and we're all going to have to, make some adjustments. But just going back to something that's real practical that just about anybody can do, talking about gardening. I've been thinking about that all week as just one simple practical solution that you can, if you're not doing it now, it's something you can start now that will be maybe different for some of us when it comes to the future. Gardening is one lesson that I was coming out of 2008. And one of the lessons I learned that I done differently after 2008 was I started a few gardens, but I found out that I don't have a green thumb.
I remember one of those. It didn't last too long.
Yeah. Well, so what I did was I said, okay, I don't have a green thumb. So the next best thing you could do is make friends with people who have green thumbs. So that's what placed me on the journey of what you see me doing now, as far as like always talking about shopping local at local farms and making friends with farmers. Looking for people who do have that green thumb and maybe work out a relationship of some way that can benefit both of you all. Like I know of one guy who I watch on the internet who had relationships with a bunch of people with yards, and he farmed in all their yards, let them live off some of the surplus, and then took some of that and built like a six-figure business off of it. And he didn't own any land. He was just, using other people's property.
Yeah, I saw that as well, as all the backyards that they were utilizing, which is very smart.
It's very smart. You don't own anything, but it's a relationship that's mutually beneficial to everyone involved.
Yeah, and you don't have overhead either.
No overhead, just sweat equity. So I mean, that's a business idea for some of those out there who do have the green thumb and have the initiative, has that go-getter type, that entrepreneurial spirit. That's something that is definitely essential. Farmers, food is essential.
Yep.
So if you're connected to food in any, some way, shape, or form, then you're always needed. Just like medical positions and careers, you're essential. People are all going to break down in whatever way, shape, or form, and you're always needed. So yeah, just thinking about what will you do differently starting now as a result.
Yeah, making plans for that. Because I know going back to 2008, one of the things that for me, I guess the benefit of living longer, you've experienced a lot of different things. And And when I went through that, I was working at a manufacturing company. And one of the things that I walked away with is that I'll never put my path in the hands of someone else. And that's kind of the way I've lived since then, because you realize when markets get volatile, uh, what is essential and non-essential varies depending on what the volatility is based on. And so I always look at it from the standpoint, I'll make sure that I have enough different things going on to where regardless of what happens, I can, be efficient enough to survive, hopefully thrive, depending on what the volatility is, right? And so that's one of the things that I walked away with back when in 2008, 2009. That's when I got laid off. And I was like, you know what? Never again. And so it just gave me enough. It gave me enough impetus to go through it and realize that, hey, I can do this on my own kind of thing. Not on my own. Everybody works with everybody else. So anybody that says that, they're self-sufficient in terms of not needing other people, they're idiots and they're liars. They're lying to themselves and other people. But anyway, just from that perspective, I was like, okay, I can do these same things on my own without the structure of a company. So that's the way I kind of looked at from that point going forward. And plus, I already had it lined out that I was going to quit that year anyway. It just happened to work out for me. Again, revolving it back to this, again, just focused on what I will change. And I have started doing the exercises like we talked about last week. I have been putting more of an emphasis on that. I've been, thinking more about, okay, let me start connecting with more people while the opportunity is there. Because right now, and this is a tip for everybody else, a power tip, there are so many people that are readily accessible right now that weren't before. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of the network, community garden. What's up, Rob? Take advantage of that, of reaching out to people who you always wanted to connect with, but they weren't available. Now is the best time to do that.
What are some ways to do that?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even emails. Go to their personal site. Because if they're large enough, then they have plenty of reach in a variety of different ways. Reach out to them, talk to them, and ask real questions. And that's one of the ways that, like I said, I've been taking plenty of advantage of that. I've been reaching out to a lot of different artists that I know, guys I admire, talking to them, getting some pointers and some tips because I know they're available.
Yes.
Zoom, that's a good one, Latanya. Utilize Zoom. I've been on Facebook meetups. I've been on group conferences. I've been on Instagram conferencing. I've been on a whole lot of different things. I've actually talked to more people within the past 2 weeks than I've talked to prior to this because I'm a homebody anyway. LinkedIn is definitely a great one. Thanks, Rob. All of these different avenues are available right now. Take it, Kevin and I were talking about this before we went live. Take advantage of cheap ad space right now. A lot of these companies that are big companies that were throwing a lot of money at ads, they've withdrawn that. So ad space is really cheap right now. Facebook ads, YouTube ads. Facebook, of course, is Instagram and Facebook. There's all kinds of opportunities in the digital space that are opening up. And because you have, I was watching a conference earlier today, and they were saying that I want to say that the people that are online has gone up 79%.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a 79% increase of people that are there, and ad space is cheaper. So figure out how you're going to utilize that. And this is something else, in terms of planning. Make sure that you can take advantage of eyeballs because, it's like, man, now would be the time to already have a product or a service that you can sell. Whereas before, and so maybe that's something that you work on is developing your business infrastructure or developing a business, a service, a product, something that you can utilize during times such as these to where, people aren't readily mobile. And even also take advantage of the weather, right? I saw some guys locally that were going around. I think they did a write up in the paper or something. They were going around doing yards for $10. And I was like, that's very smart because they're reducing the price, which means they'll get a lot of volume. And so you have that going on. There's all kinds of deals going on right now because people are trying to figure out ways to save their business. You can take advantage of that.
And I was going to say,
go ahead.
People are trying to figure out how to hustle and make some money because of loss of income.
Yeah. And so having a hustler's mentality is something that if you don't have, now is the time to start cultivating it. And necessity will definitely make you develop a hustler mentality. And that's actually what kind of, jump started me in a lot of ways is necessity, right? Thank God before the 2008, 2009 recession hit, I had already started hustling and doing things on the side, aside from me working full time. And that actually is what sustained me when I got laid off. And it helped me develop my career path, so on and so forth. And now it was kind of the same way leading into this. I was switching a career path in terms of what I wanted to do and what industries I wanted to target. And so, again, take advantage of all of these things that are going on. Even though your personal job may be, done with, there are plenty of opportunities. There are plenty of ways to utilize your skill set and, take some time out to figure out what that skill set is. Because sometimes people underestimate their skill sets and underestimate the things that they can actually do. And so I would advise each and every one of you that see this, make sure you take a real assessment of the things that you can do. And sometimes it may not even be the things that you've done before. It just may be things that that you can do based on your prior skill set.
Cultivating curiosity and not being afraid to experiment. Would you say that's something that you can do right now, just taking advantage of the time that we have? Yeah,
it's funny. I was talking with a friend. A friend hit me up asking me about an idea. And I was just like, man, he was like, what should I do? I was like, man, you got to stay curious. You gotta ask a ton of questions and cultivate your research and your learning like that. When you learn something new about a particular subject, ask another question. It's like, oh, why did they do this? And you'll be surprised at how the rabbit hole will take you into a whirlwind of information that you weren't even prepared to do, right? And so you always have to stay curious and right now,
don't be afraid.
Yeah, definitely don't be afraid. That's why I say you got to have a hustler's mentality in the sense that you'll do ideas that you normally wouldn't do. And that's just part of being a hustler. Is like, hey, sometimes you fail. Sometimes, sometimes you get a home run. Sometimes you don't even get a bunt. Sometimes you get hit by the ball, right? And so just figuring out what that is, and just again not being afraid. I'll use myself personally. I'll go through. I've been signing up for all kinds of classes just because, and some of the classes I don't even plan on actually taking. I just skim the information to see if there's anything interesting that I might like. And it'll be a variety of things. It'll be stuff that I have no desire to even attend or attempt to do. I just want to get more information because if it's offered for free, like I'm literally the guy that it's like, oh, free class, I'll sign up for it.
Yeah, free smoothies, I'll drink it all. Remember that?
Nothing like that.
Drink all those smoothies, man.
So, but in terms of the information, that's like I already know they just want to build up their email list and all of that. I'm cool with that. I understand how that works, and so I'll just go through and I'll sign up for it, and I'll just skim through the information. And if it's something that I like, then I'll actually pay attention to it. If not, then I'll move on to the next one. And so I've been doing that quite a bit. It's funny I guess over the past few days, I watched about 40 or 50 courses of a variety of different things. One, I'm trying to gather information, right? I'm gathering information on how they run the courses and why their particular courses are popular. Two, I'm gathering information on the skill set that they're offering. Yes. And so for me, it's a variety of different ways. And also it's like, why did I choose this class? What made me click on this one? And those kinds of things. So I'm looking at how they're marketing as well. So again, there's plenty of information out there to glean. In Proverbs, it talks about wisdom crieth in the street, waiting for somebody to lay hold on her. And so make sure that you take the time to pay attention to what's around you. pay attention for all the, all the conspiracies that are out there and all these kinds of things. The thing that I guess that bothers me more so than anything about the people that put out the conspiracies is that they don't even pay attention to what's going on around them, let alone, they're worried about international conspiracies and you don't even know what's going on in your neighborhood. So definitely pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to the things that you see. Pay attention to the information that's being given out. Pay attention to why something's working, why something's not working, all of that kind of stuff. You can track your own metrics. If you have a product or service, track your own metric. You don't need Facebook metrics to tell you, you can see it's like, okay, I got this many likes. Why did this work? Why did this one not work? A/B test. It's like, okay, next time I'll go here and see if people like it here. It's all kinds of ways that you can utilize the information that's being given to you, because the fact that everything is digital, you get feedback instantly. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of seeing, why you are or aren't attracting an audience if you have a product or service, or even just from a friendship standpoint. It's like, okay, why do people not like me? What kind of post do I put out there that people resonate with? What kind of
they like me?
Yeah. Just literally start assessing things, and the reason why you want to do that is because it'll translate into other things. Yes. Right? So you'll be able to translate that into a business or a product or a service or whatever. Or
just make you a better human being.
Period. Yeah. It is like, okay, it's just like the relationship. It's like, okay, when I burped in, they didn't go over too well. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Like personal etiquette, right? I had a daughter, me and my daughter was talking about, they always ask questions like, why do people not like it when you do certain things? So it's that kind of stuff, right? Just asking those questions, seeing what the feedback is, seeing what other people do, seeing how other people that are successful at whatever it is you're trying to do, see what they do and not necessarily what they say. Because I see a lot of people saying stuff, but it's like, okay, where are they actually doing? It's like, if somebody's telling you that the pandemic is a joke, are they actually going out into public, and doing the things normally, or are they, saying it on one hand just to get viewers, and on the other hand, they're locked up in the mansion. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So just this kind of stuff, right? All kinds of feedback. Just pay attention.
Just pay attention. Yeah, you were giving all kinds of nuggets about some of the things that we can pay attention to and do and take advantage of while we have some of us have a little bit of extra time on our hands. It sounds like, one of the things that we can do differently, if you haven't already, is learn how to bring your analog life, your real world life, in some way, shape, or form, bring it into the virtual world or the digital world, and use it for all kinds of things. It's either with respect to, your financial life, or your health, or your relationships, or just your happiness in general. Just learning how to utilize the tools and stuff that's available at our hands. When you were talking about relationships and etiquette and stuff like that, you made me and how to cultivate your personality to be more attractive. I was thinking about the book Captivate. So that's a good book when it comes to just cultivating those characteristics or those traits that people in general find attractive, that overall just make you just a better human being. For those of us who are socially awkward, we talked about this in the past. I was socially awkward, so I had to go get a few books and see and kind of read a little bit and work on some things to become more socially attractive.
So like you said, just stay curious, right? Ask those questions.
Stay curious. Yeah, don't be scared. Yeah, and be brave enough to ask those questions, and maybe consider some of the criticisms that you get, and then see if they check out. And don't be afraid to work on them. The hard work of working on them. When you were talking about signing up for courses, you made me think of how I've signed up for lynda.com through the library, and Audible has given away free books to read. Who else? I was thinking about Coursera. I was thinking about Udemy, and how over the years I've signed up and listened to courses on cognitive behavioral therapy, and on psychology and sociology, just history. and just kind of because of the benefit of what I do, I drive for a living. So right now, so I stream a lot of information in. So I have to find ways of executing on that
Yep.
information.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing. Just real quick on the execution part, take in the info and have an end goal in mind on how you're gonna utilize it.
yeah,
Don't just don't just be a consumer only. I'll say that. Don't be a consumer only. Figure out how you can produce as well, because that's what makes the world better. That's what makes the world go round. So figure out how you can produce. Take advantage of all the content that you can consume and utilize it. Don't just take garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. Make sure that you take nutrients in, and that you produce something useful with it. Take that energy and transmutate it into something better. So, did you freeze on me, Kevin? I can't tell if you're still there or not. Yeah, Kevin froze on me. But yeah, you just want to make sure again that you take advantage of the time period that we're in. I know for some this is not a time of advantage, but again, it's all on the perspective of how you look at it. It's a reprieve, and so you just want to make sure that you utilize that and just definitely go about figuring out how you will actually move forward from this point in time. A lot of times, we get caught. Let's see, Kevin's back. A lot of times we get caught unaware. Yeah, you look way better. The stream's way better right now. We get caught with our hands in our pockets, so to speak. And so you want to make sure that you take advantage of all the many things that are around you. Pay attention. Again, take a different perspective. Just sit back. If you're in a noisy house, it depends on where you live, because you can't always just go outside and stand on the sidewalk, because some people don't have that luxury. But if you live in a noisy house, wake up earlier than everybody else, or stay up later than everybody else, just so you can have that quiet time to focus on, okay, what are the things that I can do now that will help me prepare for my immediate needs as well as my future needs. And so just think about those kinds of things. Right now, figure out what that time is. I know my wife and I, we've been talking about utilizing our different times. We have the luxury of having, a variety of rooms to do work in. But just make sure that you focus on, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I can do better. This is what I can sustain. And in terms of my family and, my personal well-being, I can do X, Y, Z to make it better. And these are the opportunities that I currently see. I won't focus on the bad things. I just focus on, wherever you give your energy is where you'll be. And a lot of times, too many people give their energy to negative things. And so what we always say, if you're getting a lot of negative feedback on social media for any reason at all, get rid of it. Just literally get rid of it. You don't have to log on. And if you do log on, it's a time a lot of people are probably pruning their friends list. It's like, man, I never realized this person was such a jerk, because they weren't online as much as they are now, right? And so it's those kinds of things that you want to make sure that you cultivate your environment of peace, as Kevin was talking about. You want to make sure that you get that Zen zone set up to where it's peaceful, because it's hard to think in chaos. And so again, you want to make sure that especially if you got a big family, you're in tight quarters, find pockets. There's usually a pocket of peace. It may be 5 or 10 minutes. Figure out what that is and figure out how to utilize it for your well-being and for yourself. Take those quiet times. Maybe when you go to sleep, keep your eyes closed a little longer so people don't know you're up.
Yeah.
Seriously. And just focus on your thoughts and focus on, it's like, okay, this is what I can execute in this given time and space. This is how I can do it. And then just go do it. But like I said, taking the content with the mode of how to execute. So.
Yep. Was there any comments or anything people responded?
No, there was some. I'm sorry, I realized. So earlier, Robert Johnson, he mentioned community gardens, talking about different things that are available, and then Miss Latanya talked about utilizing Zoom more. Facebook Messenger opened up recently. I guess they made it more like a Zoom-like style conference. I think they made a desktop app. I don't know if it's any different than what it has been. I've not used it. Like I said, I've used just about every platform available to stream something or to talk to people within the past several weeks. And so, yeah, so there's all kinds of things available. There's all kinds of ways to reach people. And again, just to reiterate what I said earlier, make sure you reach out to those with whom you've been trying to connect with forever. Now is one of the best times to do so, because when everybody gets busy, they'll be too busy.
Yeah.
so you won't even have the time to reach out to the people you wanted to connect with. So that's my bit of advice right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a feeling that there's a lot of pent up energy of people just wanting to get back in the race. I guess you could say that's my perspective. I don't know if it's true or not. But that's all I had.
Yeah, we're good, bro.
All right, cool. Two Shot Guys on the mic, J. Kev and Leif Taylor here, just talking about health, wealth, relationships, and happiness, and just asking the question: what will you do differently, starting now, with respect to what we're going through now as far as the pandemic? When the pandemic pans out, how are you positioning? How do you plan on positioning yourself?
P, Kevin and I.
I'm always on the P's, man. I don't know what it is. Hit like, hit share, smash the buttons. Let us know that you're out there. Leave a comment, and we definitely appreciate the time and attention that you spend with us. Hopefully, the return on value is worth your while, and you got something that you can take and use to come up with a practical piece of wisdom that's going to help you in some way, shape, or form in your life.
All right.
That's all I got.
Peace out, everybody.
All right. Peace out. Later.